Welcome to Tiny Pep Talks for Step Parents, a short weekly podcast with new episodes every Sunday. For today's pep talk, stop trying to make the high conflict ex act less high conflict. You can't co-parent with someone who won't compromise, so put that energy toward blending your family instead. In our early blending days, I was really hung up on blaming Dan's ex while simultaneously trying to appease her. My thinking, and Dan's thinking too, was that if we could just get her to calm down, then we'd be fine. Our problems just seemed so obvious. Dan or I would do something that his ex or his kid didn't like. HCBM would go full mama bear about whatever it was, and Dan or I would apologize, strategize, and backpedal like crazy, trying to get everyone to chill out, sometimes even successfully. When you're living in a pattern like this, there doesn't seem to be any other possible interpretation than the ex is the problem here. If only they were more reasonable, less angry, or less controlling. If only they were willing to compromise and meet us halfway, we would love that. In hindsight, I see this pretty logical assumption as one of the most diabolical and damaging aspects of high conflict. The conflict itself disguises all the foundational work that we need to be doing as individuals and as a couple and within our family to actually blend. Because actually, Dan needed to be setting better boundaries with his ex, and I needed to be more focused on making our home feel like a safe place for my stepdaughter to land and less focused on parenting her. I also really should have been working on overhauling my entire definition of the word family rather than pointing at Dan's ex as the reason why we didn't feel like much of one. When a story has an obvious villain already, we don't look at solutions or alternatives outside that bad guy. Instead, we fixate on how to make the bad guy less bad. Our goal was to figure out how we could get Dan's ex to act like a normal person we could reason with. Once that happened, then we could blend. That's not necessarily the case though, because even when there isn't conflict, blending a family is friggin' complicated as heck, and it still takes literal years. Conflict between houses is a factor that affects blending, absolutely, but it is not the only factor. If we spend all our time and energy addressing that lone red flag, the ex, we can miss a bunch of other red flags that might actually be more solvable and make a more positive impact in the day-to-day of our life in a blended family. If Dan and I could go back in time, we would take every bit of energy we put toward his ex's shenanigans and redirect all of that towards strengthening our relationship and the relationships within our family instead. Unfortunately for us, we figured that out pretty late in the game, but once we shifted our focus to us instead of external drama, everything started to change. And turns out we had way more control over our own happiness than we realized. Not because we managed to make his ex less difficult, but because our relationship became stronger, which in turn gave our family the foundation we needed to feel more solid. The conflict didn't exactly disappear from our daily lives, but it did fade into background noise once we started paying less attention to drama and more attention to the future that we were building together. Every shared experience and new tradition and silly inside joke added up slowly but surely. And somewhere along the way, we stopped waiting for permission to feel like a family and just kind of became one. I know I say this all the time, but please learn from our mistakes. Don't waste your time trying to make the high conflict ex act differently. It will not work. Instead, try spending more time just being together and see what kind of magic making that one pivotal choice can work in your lives. If you're listening to this by podcast, please check the show notes for a link to the full transcript over on Substack, along with a bunch of other resources. We would love to see you there.